So the Tokyo Marui MWS really has very few fail points. The reason why it's one of my favorite GBBRs is because you need to do so little to make it perform perfectly. A thing I covered in a previous video was changing nozzle spring, which is something that's a good idea to do if you plan on using anything more than the gases they use in Japan. So think of like your regular green gases and stuff. The other thing I think is sort of worth swapping are parts in the hop-up chamber. If you plan on using any BB above the weight of 0.25 gram, this is probably worth doing. So this includes bucking, hop-up arm, and inner barrel. Now, I actually don't often swap my inner barrel in the MWS. I actually don't think it needs it. But the bucking and the hop-up arm do go a long way. So today I thought I would show you a quick video on how you swap the hop-up components should you want to do that. It's actually very simple, very easy, and we'll run through it together. I will be installing my own hop-up arm that I sell in my store. There'll be a link in the description below, and we even do a package deal where you can buy it with our MWS nozzle spring, which you get 2 of for like a discounted price. So this is the MWS I'm working on today. This is a second-hand one I just bought. It is very close to a stock MWS. In this video, you shouldn't see anything different to your own. The only thing that will be different when working on your MWS is how you remove your handguard. And I'll give you some pointers and tips depending on which one you have. Some MWSs come with this type of handguard, this sort of tube, old school type handguard. Very easy to remove. So let's start. I think what's best is if we remove the upper and lower receiver from one another. So that's just popping out these receiver pins. And once that's done, you can slowly worm them off. There we go. And we're only working on the upper, so you can put your lower to one side. So now we have our lower receiver. We're going to want to take the bolt and charging handle out. Cool, and we can put these to one side. So now we just have our upper receiver. So next we're going to want to remove our handguard as discussed. And so if you have these tube handguards, it's extremely simple. You just pull back on this piece, which is called a delta ring, and your handguard upper and lower will just come apart. It's very, very simple. There is the M4A1 sort of style handguard. That's actually pretty simple too. I believe there are just some screws on the underside and the top side. And if you're using something like a Mark 16, which I know Tokyo Marui are now doing, it's just the screws on this side of the body, as well as the screw that's used for alignment on each side. Cool, so now we're at this point. We're going to want to tap out these little pins here. That's not too hard to do. So what we're going to have to do first is remove our flash hider, because we want to take off our whole FSP or front sight post, and that will help us get into where the hop-up is kept. So take off your muzzle device. Cool. Put that to one side. Now we have to get out these pins. I really recommend you use a punch and some sort of hammer. These are great tools to have in your airsoft kit. Amazon do a very basic punch set where you get these in a bunch of different sizes. They're obviously not the most highest quality, but they all do. And I'm sort of relatively happy with these. It'd be nice to have some nylon punches, but otherwise we're good. So we're going to want to tap out these pins here, and they should be fairly easy to come out. And just light taps is all good. That one came out shockingly easy, and this one. Groovy. That was easy, and I recommend keeping track of these. They are quite easy to lose, as you can see. Groovy. So we shouldn't need a punch or a hammer again. So this will allow, I believe, our front end to come totally off. There you go. FSP and the, what is this, sort of like the gas tube, all gone to one side. And then this is our handguard retaining ring, We're going to want to keep that. And so next up, there is a screw on the underside of our, I guess this is sort of our handguard lock near our delta ring. There's a little bit of wobble to it already. And this is just a simple screw. So if you just get your tool set, that'll come off nice and easy. Now what I will say is if you are working on a new TM MWS, it might be a little harder to undo these screws and pins than I'm making it look. New guns usually come a bit torqued from factory. Go easy on them. These parts are kind of soft, but don't be alarmed if I'm making it look much easier. It's because this is, clearly a second-hand gun, so someone has done this before. So that just slides off now. There we go. And we're going to need that later, so keep hold of it and the screw that goes with it. And now our delta ring and the retaining spring that it comes with can come off. We can put that to one side. So the next piece I want to remove will be this ring here. Now this will be on harder on stock guns. It'll be a little less so on second-hand gun, but to remove this, you are going to need something called an AR wrench. Now these are very cheap to get on Amazon. I'm just going to go grab mine now and I'll show you how we use it. So this is an AR wrench. You've probably all seen a similar kind of thing before. They're very cheap. Mine's all sort of tattered up from a billion times I've knocked this around. But yeah, this is a great tool for getting rails off. And let's see how we get on. So because of this type, the AR wrench can take off multiple different types of rails. And we want to line up these grooves with this kind of a cut. So if we line those up. Now, problem with cheap AR wrenches is sometimes they don't fit every single hole, so it can be a little tricky to get the grip you want. That said, it's not too hard to get that off on a second-hand gun. You might struggle a bit more on a new MWS. It's worth having a better quality AR wrench. I know Garda make a pretty decent one, so if you can, maybe consider one of those. And so once we've got the bulk of the torque off, we can just spin this off nice and easily. And for anyone who wants to know, it is counterclockwise to unscrew it. I know I've been in plenty of situations where I've gone the opposite direction and I've just torqued it on further. Cool, so we have that off now, and we can slide it all the way off our barrel, and put it to one side. And so now we have not much retaining our outer barrel into our receiver. And so now we can remove this tiny screw inside our receiver here. And what this screw does is it holds our adjuster for hop-up. And this is a plastic piece on the inside. So when you remove this screw, do be careful. We don't want to cause any thread issues. And especially when we reassemble it later. Cool, we have that screw out now. It's a very important screw, put it to one side. And so to remove this plastic piece, it's good to apply the hop-up to 0, which means basically pushing it this way. So if you push it that way all the way to the max, like I have, it just slides down, and then you can just pull it out the rear of the gun like that. It's very important, put it to one side. So now we're running out of parts to remove, so we're very close to getting this all out now. So now you will be able to remove your outer barrel from your receiver. And something that just happened off screen here was I was struggling to get this off a little bit. But what I found is if you give this a little few taps with a hammer, just little gentle taps with the rubber side, maybe the mallet, this just slides right out. Nice and easy. So you can put our receiver to one side. We're just working on this now. So now that we're here, we're going to want to remove off our brass insert. We can now remove our hop-up chamber. There we go, nice and easy. And now we have our hop-up. And the TM MWS hop-up is fantastically simple. So it is held on with just this O-ring. Let me get that closer. In fact, let's zoom in. So it is actually only held on with this O-ring. And that's the only thing holding this hop chamber together. It's a fantastically simple design. So we just need to get this off, and that will separate our hop chamber for us. So sometimes I just use like the tip of a screwdriver or like a Phillips flathead to pry this off. So like just something like this. I would avoid sharp edges because it is an O-ring if you can. So maybe don't use a knife or anything like that. There we go. Just got mine off. I'm going to keep that with all my other accumulating pile of hop-up bits. And just like that, the hop chamber comes apart. And look at that, that's how it sits. So this hop arm is actually the prototype arm that we'll be installing today, but I'm going to swap it to the new one. So we can just remove the second shell, and there we have our outer barrel and hop-up, very easy. So we'll take off our bucking, and this would be our barrel, so you can see the type of window it has on it. And so I'm just going to reinstall this to show you how you would install a new bucking, because I don't really need to install a new one just yet. You do this by just simply sliding this over your inner barrel, and you're going to want to make sure that this little fin on your bucking is on the right side of your barrel, and you want to line up the groove, or the rib, sorry, inside your bucking with the groove here on the underside of your inner barrel. So you just slide this here, and it should grip in there on those little cutouts. And just like that, it's all aligned, all sorted, groovy. So now let's move on to the rest. So I want to install a new hop arm, so I get rid of my old hop arm, come here to our shiny new one. We can open this up. And there we go, our shiny purple pinky hop-up arm. And what I will say is, whilst we're here, it's worth giving this a little clean. So I'm just going to get a bit of paper towel and just clean off any grease that might have made its way into the hop-up chamber. This is a part of the gun you're going to want to keep grease away from as much as possible, which sounds a bit counterintuitive given that you put grease everywhere else in the gun, but that's because this is a place you want to keep friction. So it's good just to wipe all this down. What you can do as well is you can use a sort of barrel cleaner here that usually comes with your MWS or airsoft guns. And what I do is I put in bits of microfiber cloth, and you can even put bits of paper towel inside that little slit there. And then you just work it through your inner barrel, and that will get you pretty much clean. So you just do that until the paper towel is white. So you put it through, it comes out black, do a new one, comes out maybe gray, do another one, comes out white. Could take a few passes, but once you've done that, you've cleaned your inner barrel. It's very easy. So now we can begin the reassembly. So the hop-up chamber with this cutout here belongs on the right side of your bucking where this little fin is. So we're going to want to use the other side of the hop chamber first. And so that slides in just sort of like this. And those little holes give place for our arm. So goes through that post, we're all happy. And so next we do the same on the reverse side. So we want to get this other side of the hop-up chamber to line up with both the fin of our bucking and this post on our hop-up arm. And it's very easy. It'll want to come together. And just like that, it is together. So now we need to get back the O-ring that we had before. And the O-ring we had before is going to hold all of this together. So here is our O-ring, and we will slide that all the way down our inner barrel. And we will pull it over, and we want to get it into this groove here. And so we just roll that around. And just like that, that's it installed. That is literally how easy it is to swap up your hop-up parts. I love that there's no screws in this system, nothing you can easily round or damage. It's actually shockingly easy. Look at that, we're all pink and purple in our hop chamber. Very cool. Cool, so now we can begin the reassembly. So we will need our brass insert here, as well as our actual outer barrel. So outer barrel, we want to slide our hop-up chamber with the bigger cutout on top, And in he goes. Just like that, and there is a little O-ring here, and that just helps keep pressure against the receiver. And so that's all happy there. And then we get our little brass insert, and he goes with the bigger cutout on top, just over, just like that. And that's it. That's all that's set up. So next we want to push this back into our receiver, and this might need a little bit of force just because you remember how tight it was getting this in the first place. But that said, when we apply that screw that we undid with our AR wrench, this will tighten it up to the receiver. It's also a good idea to maybe fit a plastic adjuster that we took out. So I'm just going to brush this off because this is covered in grease, because this sort of lives where the bolt lives. So there's all kinds of grease and dirt flying around in there. Oop. Be careful of that. This part can come off, so you can just slide that back on very easy. Cool, I'm happy enough with that. And then we're going to want to slide this through our upper receiver. So we have it so this sort of interlacing arm, we go this position, and we want to slide it down our receiver like so. Boosh. And that the black piece that we just installed wants to be on top of our new shiny purple arm, which you can see there. And so then we want to grab the screw that went into the top of our hop-up chamber, and we want to screw it in here so that it retains this and we all keep held together. And we want to screw that in until we slightly start to feel it getting tight. But remember, do not over tighten this. We don't want to thread anything. And that all seems happy. It's not moving at all. Can't seem to get any adjustment on it. And so what I want to do is I now want to tighten this down, and so increase hop up so it applies tension to the hop arm. So we do that by rotating the adjuster this way. So we're dragging the wheel this way. We are all good there. I'm going to zoom out now because we're getting to the bigger parts. Cool, so we're going to want to slide down the piece that we took off with our AR wrench down our barrel. And let's see, so he just screws on there. And so we get it on just hand tight. And then we're going to want to adjust it just a little bit with our AR wrench. Some people apply their rails using a vise. So they put their receiver in a vise and they can really torque down this barrel nut. You can do that. I've done that before. I did that actually on my old Vipertech. But I found it actually to be very annoying when it came to taking off the rail, because I had to have a vise around, and I fell out of that habit. So I just do it till I'm sort of relatively happy with how tight it feels in my hands with a AR wrench. So I'm actually filming this second part twice because even I make mistakes on this part of the gun. So we're going to want to slide our delta ring and the spring that keeps it there and nice and tense over our outer barrel and onto here, so it's nice and squishy. And we do want to line up this ring and all these holes to line up so that they match the hole in our receiver, because we're going to be putting our gas block down there and we're all going to want it to line up nicely. So this will be a nice fiddly game later. And so then we want to slide over this sort of spiny part of our delta ring assembly, and this lines up with a hole on the underside of the body, and we just line that up there. And then we grab our screw from earlier. This goes in here, and then we can just tighten this down. And as I've said before, be nice on these screws and these threads, and just make sure it's nice and hand tight. There we go. And that's all on there now. A little bit wobbly, but that's how it should be. And then next, common mistake, which I've already made making this video, is you want to get your front sight post with its gas rod and your handguard retaining ring. And you're going to want to slide them over each other through the hole there. and then you slide this over your outer barrel, and now comes the tricky part of lining up your spiny delta ring, the hole in your delta ring, and then the hole within the spring that keeps it all tense in there, in through the hole of the receiver. And then once you've gotten all that lined up, it should look somewhat like this. Luckily, TM make this much easier with this screw at the bottom, which holds everything in place. And once we've done that, we can get into bashing these pins in. So if that's all laid up, these pins will not be too difficult to get back in, as you saw how easy they were to get out. So I will line them up here. Let's see, just place them in temporarily. And the rear one I can actually push in completely with my hand. And actually I've managed to push both in by hand. Okay, that was a surprise. Sometimes you need to use a hammer and a punch. I have managed to do it by hand, which just goes to show this second handgun is quite well loved. But that's all right, that makes my life easier. But again, this is just the way we took them out, except in reverse. So now we can apply our handguard. Now, the good thing with this split piece sort of clamshell handguard, there is no upper and lower, so there is no way around this should or shouldn't be. So we're going to want to slide that in to the front piece here. Nice. And then if we pull back the delta ring, this should help us slot it in, like so. And then we are going to want to do the same with the lower piece. Slide that in there, pull that delta ring back. Just like that, it's all lined up. And in case you've forgotten, now is a good time to add our flash hider or muzzle device. Groovy. And now that's all assembled, we can put in our bolt and our charging handle. And they go in very easily through the back here, like so. That was nice and easy. And now we grab our lower receiver and we will attach this again. So I like to do the front pin first, just so it swivels all nice and easy. So you line up the pin with the front hole there. There we go. And the rear should just pop on like that. Pushing the rear pin. And there you have it. You have successfully installed your MWS hop-up chamber with your hop-up arm, any bucking or barrel you've swapped. So there you have it. It's a nice, easy process, I would say. And although you need tools, I actually think this is a really nice way of doing it. It's much harder on some other types of GBBR, so that's another reason why I really like the MWS system. I've seen some companies that are making clones of the MWS actually have a quick release hop-up chamber system, which I think looks awesome. I think anything that allows us to get to the hop chamber better, to be able to adjust it and to install parts, is a game changer, and that's the way we should be heading. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you want a link to our parts or any other of our components that I sell, this includes some lube, which will be used on this gun now that I've got it. It's very dirty in here. You can find that in a link below in our description, and we offer bundle deals there. So until the next video where I show you how to do the next thing, I'll see you around.